All right, today we're tackling something huge in the world of finance, audit quality. We're talking about a situation where trust is everything, and one slip up can bring the whole house of cards down. So think about it. What happens when the very people meant to be the guardians of financial truth get it wrong? We count on auditors to give us the straight story on a company's health. What happens when that trust just evaporates? This really isn't just about crunching numbers or ticking boxes. High audit quality is literally the foundation of our entire financial system. It's the only reason we can look at a financial report and believe the numbers are real. And who's counting on this? Well, pretty much everybody. You've got industry leaders making huge investment calls, you've got the government making sure taxes are paid, and then there's us, the public, whose jobs and savings often depend on it. That trust has to be rock solid. But what happens when that trust is completely betrayed? Let's get into a story that shows exactly how things can go so wrong, so fast. This is a real cautionary tale. So our story follows a professional we'll call C.A. Jagriti. She worked at an accounting firm that was all about one thing: growth. They were expanding like crazy, onboarding tons of new clients, and from the outside, man, it looked like they were killing it. But under the hood, it was a different story. The warning signs were everywhere. They were bringing on clients without even doing basic background checks. They were jumping into complex audits they had absolutely no business doing, and they were too cheap to hire enough skilled people. The big takeaway here? The push for profits was just crushing any concern for quality. And when you cut corners like that, what do you get? Well, the result wasn't just a few little oopsies. We're talking about massive, catastrophic screw-ups in their reports. Get this, in one absolutely unbelievable case, for a publicly listed company no less, Jagriti's firm signed off on an audit report that proudly declared the company had made a profit. But the actual financial statements, the ones they were supposed to be auditing, showed the complete opposite. The company had taken a huge LOS. I mean, this isn't a simple math error. It's getting the most fundamental thing, profit or loss, 100% wrong. And it got published. And believe it or not, it wasn't a one-time thing. In a different audit report, the firm specifically referred to that company's cash flow statement. Now, here's the kicker. The company was what's legally called a small company. It wasn't even required to have a cash flow statement, and it didn't. They were citing a document that literally did not exist. Just a shocking, shocking lack of care. As you can imagine, Jagriti was floored. She realized these weren't just a few isolated mistakes by a couple of people. No, this was a systemic failure. The firm had no real quality control system to speak of, and they were driving full speed toward a cliff with regulators. A story like Jagriti's is exactly why we have professional standards. Her firm's disaster in the making helped highlight the need for a formal, mandated solution. And that solution is called Standard on Quality Control 1, or just Sqc-1 for short. So what is Sqc-1? Well, you can think of it like a mandatory quality control blueprint for every single firm. It forces them to build a system that gives reasonable assurance, that's a high level of confidence, that they're actually following the rules and putting out reports that people can trust. And Sqc-1 isn't some fuzzy guideline. It's a really solid framework built on 6 key elements that work together to create a complete system for quality. And you can see how it all connects right here. It all starts at the top, with leadership actually taking responsibility for quality. From there, it goes to ethics. And then, and this is a big one, properly checking out new clients. That alone would have saved Jagriti's firm a world of trouble. Then it covers having the right people on staff, managing the audit itself correctly, and finally, constantly monitoring the whole system to make sure it's actually working. It's a full circle of protection. Now, here's a really important distinction to make. Sqc-1, that's the playbook for the entire firm. It's the big picture system. But then you have something called SA-220, and that's the specific game plan for a single audit. So if Sqc-1 is the team's season-long training program, SA-220 is the strategy they use for this weekend's game. So what's the big lesson in all of this? What's the final word? Well, it really comes down to one simple, powerful idea. The rules could not be more clear on this. The pressure to make money, to sign that next big client, to grow the business, none of that can ever justify cutting corners on quality. This gets right to the heart of what went wrong at Jagriti's firm. And I really want to end on this quote because it says it all. It says that any business strategy a firm has is subject to the overriding requirement to achieve quality. And then it gives us the most important part. It is non-negotiable. That's it. End of story. Look, this was a story about auditing, but the lesson here applies to literally any field. It really leaves us all with a pretty heavy question to think about. How do we build systems, and maybe more importantly, cultures, that are strong enough to protect us from our own ambitions? Something to chew on.